one job, how many 22-year-olds are coming out of all the film schools across America at the same moment?
The biggest is the saturation. I think the saturation, because you feel overwhelmed by how many people really want your job, no matter what it is. There's like there's 100,000 to 1 million people probably still wanting that same position.
It's hard. It's really, really hard to see even people that are well established tell me, sorry kid, it's kind of no use almost.
Checkmate. It's not only a winning move in chess, but the feeling of success when landing one's first job in the entertainment industry. Here, in Hollywood, California, actress Elizabeth Taylor once said,
"It's not the having, it's the getting."
So, how does one land their first job in the entertainment industry?
I have experience in other realms of work. I think I could find another job. But this is the one, the industry that I have chosen, that I want to do, and no one even wants to take the chance.
This is the game of Hollywood Checkmate.
My name is Jeff Margolis. I'm a producer-director.
I was very much involved with the rebuilding of the Globe Theatre in London, was the first American to direct on the Globe stage in London, was on the board of the Globe.
I'm CEO of Ubiquity.
Bones, Supernatural,
Air Force One.
I'm a reporter at KTLA Channel 5.
Awesomeness TV, which is now owned by DreamWorks.
We've done the Academy Awards, the American Music Awards, the Emmy Awards, the Screen Actors Guild Awards.
DP'd about close to a dozen features at this point.
I did Days of Our Lives for 2.5 years.
Previously, I've worked for Entertainment Tonight.
For 21 years, I was a staff producer in Los Angeles for the ABC network morning show Good Morning America.
I was a Chief Technology Officer and President of Technical Operations at Warner Brothers.
We've done specials with Cher and Bette Midler.
Teaching at USC, Juilliard.
We're #1 worldwide on iTunes for 2 weeks straight.
Kingsglaive, which is like Final Fantasy 15.
Men in Black 1 and 2, Stuart Little 1 and 2.
I'm a lecturer in cinema and television arts, and I'm also an instructional designer with the Faculty Technology Center here at Cal State Northridge.
My title now, I'm CEO of Sonic Pool.
I'm most often known from General Hospital Devious Maids Homeland.
I worked at BuzzFeed for a couple years.
I was a Steadicam operator on the Chainsmokers' Don't Let Me Down music video.
I'm an independent producer here at CBS Studio Center.
Oh, and while I was at Columbia Pictures, I was Senior Vice President of Production. Forgot that.
One of my first big breaks came from Marty Thomas, who was the director of Killer Holiday. And he had cast my wife in his movie, and she mentioned to him that she was married to a director of photography who had a Red One.
Marnie, the casting director of Days of Our Lives, she definitely gave me that break. And she booked me on an amazing recurring role that turned into 2.5 years and 80+ episodes of Days of Our Lives.
My first big professional break was from a news director at a radio station in Buffalo, New York, who hired me to, for minimum wage, write news copy for a disc jockey to read late at night on Fridays and Saturdays.
Well, I started in the business as an actor. I did lots of television back in the late 60s, early 70s. I worked on shows like Little House on the Prairie, The Rookies, Owen Marshall. I did a series called The Young Rebels, and I did another series where I played a caveman, a Neanderthal man, in Korg 70,000 BC.
I got a job answering the phone basically at a radio station in San Francisco, KCBS Radio. And I was the screener for one of the talk shows. It was a psychologist who had a talk show.
I got my first break at Entertainment Tonight. I was a receptionist, and that was my break. I had nothing to do with any kind of media or any kind of footage. I wasn't even working with anybody. My job was to get like pens, pencils, notepads, lunch, coffee. That was my first gig, and it was a rude awakening.
I had a relative who had a show on NBC, and I called my relative and I said, I want to get my foot in the door. Can you help me get a job? And he got me a job doing cue cards.
I'd have to attribute my first break to a man named Brian Robbins, who's the CEO of Awesomeness TV. He brought me on to write and direct sketch comedy for their company, which got started in 2012. I spent about 2 years making a lot of their viral sketch comedy videos.
So my first official paid break was on Freaks and Geeks. I had a co-star in the pilot episode. I'm actually the first person you see and hear in the pilot of that show, which was like a cult classic.
The real starting point for me was Warner Brothers by working in the legal department. So I actually learned a foreign language. It's as if it's a foreign language, which is legal terms in entertainment for story purchase rights, for contracts and things like that. Be able to understand what that is.
So I think my biggest influence is my competition. It's like when I see something I really think is dope, that drives me to want to do something even better.
Probably Gary Martin had the most impact because I was at Columbia Pictures for 16 years, and working at a major studio is an amazing education.
My parents had the most impact on me as a person, both who I am personally and professionally. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and we grew up with a very strong work ethic.
Honestly, the biggest impact in my career early on was my very first agent, Cole Harris. He took a girl, an 18-year-old girl from Allentown, Pennsylvania, who had nothing but dance credits on her resume. He got me into rooms and in front of casting directors that my resume never would have done on its own.
I don't know if there was one person that had the most impact on my career. There were a number of directors who were doing entertainment television who I admired. I admired their style, and I wanted to have my own style. But I watched and listened and learned from them and saw the way that they did things and figured out how to do those things my way.
Seeing how I didn't want to be was just as informative to me, if not more informative, than people that necessarily were like as generous. Or people that I put in a position of power, thinking, oh, you're my manager, you know better than I do. And then at a certain age, realizing that, this just doesn't resonate with what feels right to me.
First thing the boss said to me is, you know what, you're not going to be staying in Las Vegas. You're going to Carson City, Nevada, and you're going to live up there for 6 months, and you're going to cover the Nevada legislature. And I think that really had a huge influence because I got to see up close how it's done. It kind of got rid of any kind of idealism I might have had about elected leaders and how they do their jobs.
A woman named Linda Fuller, who was the senior producer for Entertainment Tonight. And the reason why she was such an influence in where I am today in my career is she was just a no bullshit kind of person. She told you like it is, and she let you know why you need to be like this to get to the next level. It was no sugarcoating, get to the point, get the job done, and move on to the next thing.
I think it's harder now because there's so much more of a wave of people trying to get into the industry of whatever, whether it's television, film, video games, software.
The industry has changed in many, many ways. I was a teenager in the 1970s. Back then, as an old man will tell you, not only was there no internet, there was no cable TV. At that time, there were networks, 3 networks, maybe a few more, and their local affiliates. in cities across the country.
The biggest change in the industry since I started is clearly technological distribution. Production itself hasn't changed that much. It's still so similar to what it was even 70 years ago. It's remarkable. Of course, distribution is the big deal because of the internet, because of digital platforms with digital media, that with distribution, especially onto smartphones around the world, that has changed everything.
There's so many more places where media is released. So that means there's more opportunities. It doesn't mean they all pay well enough to sustain a living.
So now we have so many different avenues of production. There's not just major networks and cable networks. There's so many other outlets for people to distribute their content and get it out there. To even just have a really successful YouTube channel where you're self-producing your own content and maybe somebody takes an interest in that and then you get a better opportunity elsewhere.
Let's see, when I started in the industry, I was still doing stuff with reel-to-reel quarter-inch tape, cutting commercials, and CDs were barely a thing. There weren't pagers or iPhones or any of that stuff that you have now. So it's a pretty massive change over time.
We have now graduated into such an amazing digital age that opportunities, I think, today for filmmakers are unlimited. I mean, you have people shooting feature films on iPhones and cutting them on MacBook Pros.
With an eye towards mobile and now new forms of experiences linked to virtual and augmented reality, the rate of change is unprecedented.
What you can buy now for $5,000 is you can shoot 4K like we are right now for this interview. You could make a feature film on a Blackmagic camera with a couple of lenses, 2 lenses, Sigma 18-35 art series and a 50-150, and you've got a 1.8 across both lenses. You've got your wides, mediums, tights, color matched, inexpensive follow focus. Like you can actually make something that gives you a better image quality for a few $1,000s now than you could way back then. It's democratized the filmmaking process.
Well, so much has changed. I mean, when I started, we used actual physical tapes that were huge, and you had to lug a big piece of equipment around, and it was analog.
I think technology has helped keep Hollywood, not afloat, but it kept Hollywood grow, especially when you think of streaming and where it's gone now, to where you can watch an entire library of films or an entire library of shows just like that. For an entertainment media aspect, technology has helped it in every form of fashion.
Just in the last 10 or 15 years, towards the end of when I was doing freelance production, the DSLR cameras had just come out that could shoot high definition video using the much better still camera lenses. Obviously, those who could afford really high-end film production equipment, that didn't matter. But for those of us who couldn't afford the best stuff, suddenly everything became affordable.
The show Family Ties, on a weekly basis, they had 40 to 50 million viewers. What other options were there? There weren't really. And nowadays, you've got all these different channels, but you also have more viewers, and you also have more outlets for the viewership to actually pick up on the message.
I think that so often people look at a YouTube channel as like a lesser form of entertainment, when in reality you can do whatever you want on YouTube. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you can see a lot of people that make vlogs about what kind of toothpaste they use, but if you want to make a horror film, why not make a YouTube channel based off of the brand that you're trying to sell, and then use that to develop your skill and create a portfolio around what you want to do in the film industry.
There's more jobs today doing it than there were back then, but there's also a higher ratio of people that are qualified to do them. But what ends up happening is, because there's more jobs, there ends up being a higher rate of turnover. There ends up being more of a shuffle.
Also, there's so many places to get content now that how good the content is really starting to matter again. And so there's a turn happening where I think, you know, we have people that are concentrating on making really good content because that's what's driving eyeballs to go see it.
There are more local hires than ever, so you don't have to be based in Los Angeles the same way. For a certain level of roles, you do have to be based here, but then the irony is that most of the time you'll be living somewhere else.
Social media.
Ruled by social media.
Social media.
Social media. These successful influencers will...
I thought the day was still quite far off when they're going to put people in films because they have like millions of followers, but I think it's here already, you know. And you know, say Kim Kardashian has 60 million followers, so if you put her in a film, you know, the film's going to be pretty bad, but you're going to have, you know, 30, 40 million people go watch your film. So I get it, but gosh, it's really created a dumbing down in our industry if that does go ahead and happen. We get those sort of people acting in our films and TV shows.
You can't make a Meryl Streep from YouTube unless she really has that kind of, you know, powerful ability, but she don't, because that takes training. It takes so much, it takes training to be an expert at something.
Social media ratings, for me as a producer, I would never, it's always about, does the person fit the role? Is this the best qualified actor to portray this character? That would always be my bottom line.
I am kind of the ilk of somebody that wouldn't want to, I would prefer a traditional actor who can actually have the chops and be able to pull off a role than somebody who it just has the numbers and can't quite pull off the role.
I guess I'm romantic enough to believe that quality will ultimately out.
You have 8 million, 9 million followers. What are you doing with it? Like, what are you doing with it? Besides being like, oh yeah, I'm popular and I'm famous, and that's fine. If you want to be famous, we live in a country where that is like the thing, is to be famous for doing nothing. But God, would I love that platform to just do so much good for people who, A, like we're talking about, don't know how to get a start, and unknowns. I would love to, like, my biggest platform is animals, for children, for just, like, this platform, and you just, now you have it and you want to be a dick.
Production is terrible. The content is just spontaneous, and I find it absolutely fabulous. It is so incredibly funny when a person is just sitting there complaining while things don't work for them. I think it's virtual genius.
You're good at that particular platform means that particular audience is coming for you to do that one thing. It doesn't transcend to TV or film. So whatever's done on YouTube shouldn't be funded to be making, you know, blown up. I think it works perfectly in that 3 or 4 minute, you know, medium.
Is it unfair that a talented person with a great resume who's not on social media outlets at all loses a job to a mediocre talent who's a Twitter sensation? Yeah, it's unfair, but that's the entertainment industry.
Some people are concerned that maybe it's just a numbers game, and that is an enormous part of why somebody would be picked to star in one of these films. Obviously, their following is considered.
But I can understand in today's market, social media does play a part, and I understand why certain producers would take someone who had a higher social media presence over someone who did not have quite a presence on social media.
Yes, you want to do a product and you want to make money. This is all a business. You know, the motion picture industry, the recording industry, the television industry, it's all a business. It's about making money. But it's all based on the amount of talent that an artist has. Can this person sell a movie? Can this person front a television show? Can this person sell records? Can this person sell concert tickets? And it's based on talent.
Okay, there's a business decision. Is that fair to the other side of the coin where people are trying to, you know, hone a craft and learn it? Probably not. But that's the world we live in.
As a person who works in this business, I mean, social media is your brand. And by building a brand, maybe you're helping yourself with job security because you become a person that people trust and that they like. And so you want to have that to kind of help you maintain your job and your credibility and to help you get new sources of information.
So the moral of the story is, once you get the job, if you get the job, sign up right away and get those social media followers on your side.
There's a lot of focus on, structured. Okay, I've taken all of these courses, I've done all of these things, I've done my community service, and I think too many students try to frame up well, I've checked all the boxes, so where is my job?
I think film schools, theater schools, music schools struggle with an inherent contradiction, which is you need to have a certain number of students to make the school economically viable, but you know that maybe 1% of them will have a career.
So it's like we have like this whole flood of relatively qualified students, but the challenge is that they don't have the real world experience. They don't have the experience on set. Their resume basically ends at their diploma. That's the jump. That's the part that's difficult to get past. But then once they finally do get past that and they do have a few projects under their belt and they've developed the relationships with the people who would actually be hiring them, then it's a different ball game. Then the ball is rolling.
Internships are supposed to give you qualifications for a real job. People are treating these internships as jobs now. It's slave labor.
My pockets would sure have loved me better if I did not go to school and just jumped right in and, just did this for me.
I think that more film schools should be teaching how to start a YouTube channel, how to market properly, and how to really get content out to the right people.
To go to university and study journalism, in my view, I think that's kind of a waste. I think you'd be better off studying politics or political science or English or something that gives you critical thinking skills. And then you can learn the technical aspects later on.
All of it. Do all of it. If you can go to school, if you have that opportunity, by all means do it. If you don't have the opportunity, work on as many sets as you can. Work for free if you have to, just to get an idea of what's going on.
I don't know if college prepares you for your first job. No, because nothing in college is like your first job.
The industry is a global industry. The competition is global competition. Graduates today in the United States are not just competing against, if you will, their colleagues who happen to be, based in the U.S. They're competing against graduates from around the world who are competing for those same jobs, especially when it comes to Hollywood and the 6 majors.
I do think film schools tend to give students the impression that the world is waiting for them, that the minute they graduate, somebody's going to say, oh, well, come here, young Master Lucas. Come here, young Master Spielberg. I don't think it's like that.
Like people think you can just come on a set with no experience and be a second AC. That's not the case. There's so much that goes into that particular job that is really specific. It's a skilled position.
I think people used to feel, and maybe some still do, oh, I need to have a degree in writing, or I need to have a degree in filmmaking, or I need to have gone to this amazing conservatory to act. And I'm not saying that those things aren't super valid and really helpful and don't give a huge leg up, because they do. I believe that they do. But that still doesn't mean that I can't go and just learn how to do it.
The person who's going to get hired is somebody who is compelling in some way, who can handle live television, who is fast on their feet, and those are things that have that part really hasn't changed. That part of the job description was true 25 years ago, and it's still true today. You need that skill in order to get work.
Really, the point of the search is meeting people, having them care about you, having them understand what you want. The basic skills of this person, right out of high school, right out of college, the main skills are communication skills. Talking, listening, reading, writing. The other skill is an ability to learn quickly. And of course that is technologically based too, because the software changes so fast.
I say going to events, seminars that you wouldn't normally think that you should go to because you may not have a product would be your best bet of making connections, and that's how you're gonna get your job. It's not gonna be sending your resume in. I don't believe in that anymore because I don't think people believe in what they read all the time. I've heard plenty of time, I've seen it, of people hiring someone with a stellar resume and the person doesn't know what they're doing because they're really good at manipulating the thing, and maybe they were great at interviewing too. So I think the best way of what people really love is they want to get referrals. Everybody wants to take the safe route. It's safer to be referred by somebody else and be like, I worked with this person, I know this person's great, and that's how normally people get hired. That's why this city is like it is. It sucks at one point, but at another point it's great if you're good at building relationships.
At the start of this documentary, I was a full-time student working for minimum wage at a pizzeria. Since then, I've learned a hell of a lot.
Sometimes you have to fight. Other times, and this is really the most effective thing, is how do you get around that rejection? You know, what can you do? Somebody tells you, I'm not going to help you, I'm not going to tell you what you want to know. Well, what else can you do? Who else can you call? Who might help you? What other sources can you reach out to? And there's always a way. And so that's what you learn from being a reporter.
Go out there, build those relationships. Go to events. Go to stuff that might be really expensive. If you need help, get some money from your folks or work a part-time job to save up to get the ticket to them because they're very expensive. E3 is like around $500 or whatnot. Pro Max is around $500 to $1,000. Digital Summit was charging $400 for their tickets, and those are pretty expensive. But it's like, what are you gonna do? Go see Beyonce or go help your career?
I think people have to be aggressive in pursuing any lead they can in terms of contact or, somebody they know in the business, or just doing anything to get their foot in the door.
If you go for a job as an accountant, if you go for 3 interviews and you expect to get one of those. But for us, you could go like 30, 40 auditions, 30 or 40 interviews and not get the job. So what he did, he said, you know what, I'm not going to get angry at myself. I'm gonna, if I go give myself 100 auditions, if I go 100 auditions and I don't get a job, then I'll get worried about it.
I now have a job at Ubiquity with my friends Connor and Logan, and I'm really enjoying it. It's my first big step out of college and into the real world. The future looks pretty damn bright right now.
It's much easier to get a job now than ever before. The reason is the path of distribution is so big. The amount of content is so large. The number of people creating that content is so big that this is probably the best time to be going into entertainment that has ever happened.
Everybody thinks it's glamour. They think it's going to be like an episode of Entourage, and it's going to be a constant party, and you're going to be wining and dining with famous people. It is very hard work, and the best thing you can do is learn to be a detail-oriented person. Learn to pay attention to all the little details like time management, knowing your schedule, knowing when you have to be places, knowing the types of things you need to be prepared, what type of equipment you'll need if you're the one person crew filming and editing everything yourself.
What I've seen is that, okay, that company worked with that company because those two guys know each other. That person got that job because that person knew someone else. It's like, okay, it's relationships. It's all about the relationships.
If you found me a couple months back, you would have seen that I was hustling really hard to find a job and nothing was coming through for me. It was getting really, really tiring, and I was really close to quitting. Wanted to give up, told my friends, I told my parents, and finally, somehow, something came through for me. Someone took the chance and decided to hire me. And that's where I am now.
So I really encourage any students or anybody that's coming up in the industry, learn as much as you can about every department. Work in every department if you get the opportunity.
They will either give you the job or they won't, but it has nothing to do with your ability to continue to persist if you don't get the job and keep working on your craft. There's a very important quote that influenced me early on in my career. And the quote was by Stanislavski, one of the great, he wrote the book, An Actor Prepares. And in that book, he makes the comment, love the art in yourself, not yourself in the art. And I think that's an important rule to follow.
It's like if you're a professional tennis player, once you get to number one, do you stop training? You don't stop training. Roger Federer's out there every day practicing his forehands and backhands and making sure it's all tuned up. And I think people don't realize the hard work that we put in our off hours. The proper actors, the true actors. And how much work goes into it.
I guess there are those cases of people that sort of have the overnight success and they come here and they book their first thing and they become huge, and that's amazing. But for the majority of us, you gotta work. You can't be a doctor in a year, you can't be a lawyer in a year, you can't be a dentist, all these, normal jobs.
Overall, it's a lot of hard work, and it's not, glitz and glamour, fun and games all the time.
There is no substitute for perseverance.
Fearlessness isn't necessarily being smart, but it's just sort of going forward and never stopping and going, I think I'll try that, or I'll do that, or let's see if this works, and if not, let's see if that works. And the fearlessness I really see as being a common entertainment industry attribute.
Have a day job, make sure you have health insurance, and don't quit.
If I could give myself, advice now if I came into it, I would hit the get here and put your nose down and grind. I spent a lot of time when I first moved here being enamored by LA and the social aspect and all that, and if I was to come here now, I would make all the connections I could make, pump out as much footage as I could pump out, be creative, write, get with people, make your own content, make your own stuff.
You want to try and get into what you aspire to do. I mean, we have people here and they want to be reporters, and maybe they're working on the assignment desk, or they're doing something here, they're collating scripts, or they're doing something that's not really what they want to do, and they dream of becoming reporters. I tell those people, don't do this. You're wasting your time here. Get out of LA, go to a smaller town, become a real reporter. Work as a reporter every day. You'll make mistakes, you'll get better, and you'll see if you like it.
The main issues are who knows you and what do they think of you.
Lose your ego. Lose any kind of ego you have. Humble yourself.
Why can't you make a short film every weekend with your friends? What is stopping you from doing that? Everyone has access to a camera, and you can just with your iPhone, you can tell a story. What is stopping you from getting out there and making a film every weekend? And the answer is nothing. There shouldn't be anything stopping you from doing that.
This career will make you very miserable. Let's look at it that way. Let's not put the other end. When you get your Academy Award, it will make you very happy, but it will make you very miserable. There's no need to punish yourself. If you want a happy life and can do something else, go do it. But if this is the only thing you want to do or can do, because again, you feel that you have something that you want to say that must be said and that compels you to do it, then I think it's one of the most rewarding ways of spending your life that you can find.